Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Eliana Kernodle. Joining me today is Pennsylvania reporter Christina Lingell. And today we're talking about Governor Josh Shapiro's lightning plan. Christina, can you tell us a little bit about this plan and how people are responding to it?
Sure, yeah. So Governor Shapiro has this lightning plan that he floated in his own stuff, which would create a reset board to centralize approval of big energy projects in the state. Currently, everything kind of goes through at the local level. And so, Shapiro said, hey, other states do this. We should do this. This would move faster. This is part of his overall, goal of what he likes to say is making government move at the speed of business. He's been trying to eliminate a lot of the slowdowns and permitting issues and red tape that people cite as reasons that Pennsylvania kind of can be less inviting for businesses to set up shop. So that's been a major focus of his. The problem with this reset board that a lot of people are seeing is that it has the potential to eliminate the local control that, people really value about the state. The bill for the lightning plan has been put forth by Democrats in the House, but as to whether or not it will be, make it through, it remains to be seen.
And there's some doctors in particular who are opposed to this. What's their opposition?
Yes, it's actually pretty interesting. So the Physicians for Social Responsibility for Pennsylvania is a group of doctors, and they said, you know what, we don't want to be on any kind of advisory board for this plan to go through because they think that, it's violating Pennsylvania's constitution and its home rule structure to push through these energy projects. So as you might expect, the doctors who are for social responsibility are very much for the kind of clean energy projects that Shapiro and other Democrats say will be able to move faster. But they worry that this could be, abused to move through other sorts of projects more quickly and to silence the voices of local communities. So we see a lot of issues in Pennsylvania where local communities that already have one industry will start to pile on, and they'll have this cumulative pollution effect that really impacts human health. And so it's a concern for doctors. And it's also one of those things where they'll say, well, we already have this issue here. It's already factoring into whether or not people want to invest here or live here or build here. So, why not pile onto it? Obviously, there is a cumulative health effect, but we don't currently have any sort of legislation in place that considers that. So when the DEP looks at permits, they look at it as if it were in a vacuum. So it doesn't really matter how many factories you put together, as long as each one individually isn't polluting. So that, I think that's one of the major concerns. And then also, just because of the way Pennsylvania is set up, that home rule is pretty central to a lot of people's hearts, I think.
Well, and even you mentioned even under this current structure, there's still people who oppose projects have run into difficulty making their voices heard. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So most of the big projects that we write about a lot, at least, that have seen huge multi-billion-dollar investments into the state are ones that there have been pretty strong and loud vocal opposition from local community members to, that doesn't really seem to gain any traction in the larger conversation, and certainly hasn't seemed to slow down any of these projects. So we've seen it significantly here in the central Pennsylvania region where 3 Mile Island is located. Of course, people remember the fallout from the 3 Mile Island accident and don't want to see something like that happen again. There's a lot of debate in the area about whether or not that did more damage than people say it did. But in any case, there's a strong resistance to reopening the plant there. There's a lot of opposition to nuclear power because of the waste that people have that they kind of will bring up, not just in Pennsylvania, but wherever there's nuclear energy. There's a lot of opposition locally in places where fracking is done because of the pollution it does to the local water supply, and also because fracking creates radioactive waste in the same way that other energy production does. And then we've seen a lot of pushback to the data centers themselves being kind of large, loud, bright, and energy demanding. So none of that seems to have really slowed down this move towards more data centers, which is essentially the reason that there's a demand for so much more energy.
Well, Christina, thank you for your insights on this story. You can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.